It's not even making contact. This is loose as a goose. I can slip that in and out. Can you see that? The solder hasn't even made penetration. Look. Okay guys, Matty Extreme Auto Caravan and Camping. We've got an Avida Esperance today. Now this one is quite a large off-grid setup. So stick around, I'll give you a rundown. G'day guys, Matty Extreme Auto on an Avida Esperance off-grid setup. This one's huge. So the layout on this one's a bit spread out, and I'll do a few run-throughs for you here. And I'll drag you around to the back and over the side and show you what's going on. But in this location is the factory spot for the batteries. So in factory form, this came with AGMs. These guys opted for a lithium upgrade, only a small lithium upgrade, but you know, we've changed it quite a bit. So in the factory location, sort of right next to the step here, is the PowerPaul Scouts. Now these batteries came in at 322 amp hours per battery. So that's 960 something amp hours. That's a lot here, guys. And all in parallel, it's a 12 volt system. All three here are tied in together. The distance from here to the inverter is bang on just on 3 meters. It is the furthest away I've ever probably put an inverter that I'd like to fit an inverter. I generally like to put them really close to the batteries, but we didn't really have a choice in this one because we wanted to keep the batteries outside here in this location to not impede space under the bed, and we've achieved that. And the system is flawless. We have a 0.2 to 0.3 of a volt drop under full load from that inverter to here, and that's because we run the heavy gauge cable. We do that properly. So full Victron suite here, every product is Victron. So the factory system on this has obviously been completely removed and bypassed. So the factory Avida still will work and function as it always does. The difference is now everything is drawn from this system here. So with 900 odd amp hours at 12 volt, these guys don't have to worry about energy ever again. The things that do come into play is when you're running the inverter, running the air conditioning, or even for these guys running the hot water service, you know, they can manage it on and off as they see fit, and same with the three-way fridge. These guys have the option to run their three-way fridge from the inverter should they wish to. So 960 odd amp hours here. We've got the Victron multiplus 12 3000 120 amp inverter charger, and that is factory CMS integrated. What that means is all of the factory outlets just work seamlessly. Power comes in, goes through the inverter, and will run on all the factory outlets. Outside, inside, wherever there's a factory GPO, it will run from this system. So it's as simple as just turning the inverter on, and these cars can be on the side of the road. They can put their air conditioner on, they can turn the microwave on. They don't have to unplug and plug things in to do things. It's a simple on and things are on. And it should be simple like that. So with that in mind, we've got solar. Now to replenish such a large battery bank, obviously the more solar the better. You can never have too much solar. So we've managed to squeeze on this roof 1250 watts. So we've got 4 200 watt Exatronics all laid out flat on the roof, so they're not going to see too much peak, but they're going to do a really good job. But the 450 watts, the 450 watts that's on the Luton, on the back of the Luton, they're slightly angled. So we're actually seeing over 450 watts from it. And now we're in the start of April now, so sun's quite low and the solar yields are starting to drop off. But today when the sun came out for an hour or two, we're seeing over 450 watts. So really loving the fact that I was able to get that on an angle. We weren't going to put anything there, but could have put a 200 watt panel there, but we worked out I could fit 3 150s. So we've got 450 watts on the front array and the other rear array flat mounted for the 800 watts. So all the Victron fruit DC charging on this is the Orion 50. So his alternator can handle that no problem. So he's able to punch in 600-700 watts, 50 amps from the engine while the engine's running, driving, and the solar will come in as well. So he's going to see up to 1200 watts from solar, 600-700 watts from the engine with no generators, guys. That's just not plugged into the grid. That's a big number. To be able to achieve these numbers, obviously, gauge of cable comes into play, how you wire it up, how you install the system, products you use, fusing, cable lugs, the whole show. We've also done the Touch 70 and the cerboGX, so basically a computer to run the system. So with that in mind, all of the Victron products come into this unit and you're able to see each product individually. You have control, you can software update as needed, if needed. And all of the history is recorded and logged there. See, I can look back at history to see the solar yield from the front, solar yield from the rear. I can see his DC charger history. I can look at his battery monitoring, full history. The whole show is monitored and data recorded with history. So I can log online as well. So through the VRM portal, I'm able to see these guys, what they're using, what their average discharge is, solar yield, etc. So if there's a firmware update or something needs to be changed, I can do that remotely. Pretty rare, but it's just a good added feature to have with these setups. And we're at a caravan park here. Most of the morning up until about 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, the sun is behind this massive gum tree. Beautiful area, but hard to test for solar. So we've had to kind of do it in dribs and drabs. And today it was actually raining a little bit earlier, which we need rain in Adelaide, but the sun has just come out, so I'm going to see some good numbers, which is really good, and I'll take you inside to show you that. But for now, I'm going to give you some zoom ups of the battery setup, the distances, and how we've spread this out in essentially 3 locations. So instead of it being all in one spot, it's spread out nice and evenly. And when you do that, obviously gauge of cable plays a role, especially from the charging system to the inverter, to the batteries, and so forth. There must be correct gauge of cable used, fusing correct, otherwise you're just going to get mismatch. It's just not going to work. Check this out. So here's the Scouts. So they've come in at 322 amp hours each. There are 3 of them. We're using Paul's new bus bars. So these are a really, really good looking bus bar. Nice and simple. It keeps it neat. It keeps it tidy. I've just done a little bit of rewiring for old mate here. He's got the Redfoot system, which was installed pretty average, so I've just tidied it up for him there and left that on the standard breaker. The factory master 12 volt fuse is still in situ. We've just kind of moved it up here. So that's a MIDI fuse running all of the master 12 volt inside. It's very simple. The batteries that were in here were kind of pushed over this side, and it allowed the space for the third battery here. So that's 12 kilowatt hours in this location. So 960 odd amp hours, 12 kilowatt hours of storage. That's a lot of energy here. So moving to the back. So we're able to squeeze, so this is where his charging system was. So all the electronics used to be in this area. We've rehashed it. It's an absolute mess. Like, you'd have to rewire all of Avida's stuff to fix all that up. It's on plugs. I've just made sure things are plugged back in and tidied up a little bit neater. And we've just pushed their power board, so this power management center kind of thing, this was further forward here. We've pushed it back to allow the inverter to fit in here. So he's got venting at the back, hard to see. I don't know if you can see, it's a bit dark. There's a massive vent up the top there, and he's got the ability to open this should he need to, but this can be closed and it's completely sealed. So that's the multiplus 12 3120 amp inverter charger. Now if we go around this way, this is where all the charging system comes in. So we've got all MIDI fuses here, all labelled, nice and easy. So if someone needs to change something, turn something off, they can. We've got the rear solar set up through this 50 amp. We've got the front set up solar through this 50. There's the Orion 50 amp DC to DC. So solar, vehicle charging here. There's the serbo, which runs the Touch 70. Here's your circuit breaker for your solar isolation. Vented box. This is a massive storage area, hard to see. Same thing, you can open this if needed. And we are all nice and neat. Everything's got a label on it. You know what's going on here. It's quite simple. So this system here is running a larger cable over to the 12 volt, the batteries. Because of the distance between this charging system and the batteries is not ideal, what you're able to do with Victron is create a mini network, and you can choose where the monitoring, the battery monitoring comes from. So my battery monitor is this far away from the batteries, okay? It's practically on the batteries. So all of the voltage reference points are taken from that point. Now I've programmed this whole system to look at that to decide how to charge. So in other words, if there is a voltage drop between here, this area here, and the front, which there is, it's about 0.2 to 0.3, it will compensate for that by looking at the network voltage at the point that I tell it to. So I've told this system to look at the battery monitored voltage. So whatever happens at the battery voltage at that area, it will tell this system to look at that, not here. Most solar controllers don't give you that ability. They don't have separate voltage sensing, because a solar controller will take its voltage reference points at its terminals. So, you know, what if your solar controller is 3-4 meters away? The facts are there will be a volt drop. That's just how, you know, resistance works. With Victron, it will change what it's monitored by at that point. So my battery monitor, which is the shunt, in this case the Smartshunt, its voltage sensing wire is very short, and it is right at the batteries. So there's data comms between the shunt and the serbo. So I just go into the programming and basically tell it to look at the battery monitor for its voltage reference points, and it will charge based on that instead of its own terminals. It's just a game changer. We're able to network controllers together so they all work in unison. It's just how it should be done. Completely love it, and it gives you this is a good example of versatility. You know, I'm at a big distance. You know, instead of traditionally like you see most of my installs where they're all in the one area, you know, it's the voltage drop really isn't going to be there. But in this case, it is here, and it's been tested to be here. So this is the compensation for it, and it just works. It's bloody excellent. So there it is, all in here, nice and neat, pretty easy to see. You know, we've got a light in here. Old mate, if he needs to come out here at night time, whatever reason, this is all set and forget in here. You should never need to go to this. Right, so up on the roof here, oh, hard to see. There's the 400 watt array there, so the 3 150s, and we've got the 4 200s here. Now I've got old mate to put the aircon on, so this is the Webasto air conditioner. I'm going to run this off grid now. These guys are at a caravan park, we are off grid, so we're running on inverter only. And we have got sun, so we're still a little bit of shade here. So a bit of shade here, but we've got sun, and the angle is out there. So that's that big tree I was talking about. But note the angle on that front array, it's pretty primal for that angled sun, so they're kind of angled towards us. So if you were to face this, the bum of the van north, that array is going to really pump. And, you know, I keep saying it, you can't control the weather, but, you know, if you've got some form of control like parking your van in orientation that's going to give you more energy, well, you know, you can do that. These guys have that option now. And even with their antenna up, this whole system is away from shade, really, really good. So let's go inside, got the air conditioner running now. They're actually going to put a slow cooker on too. And I'll actually show you what these guys have opted for, because they're actually going to be running their hot water service, which is the Truma boiler, as well as a 3-way Thetford fridge from the inverter. And they've opted for that option because they want to run that as a backup. So if they run out of gas, or if their batteries are full all the time, they want the option to be able to put their 3-way fridge over to run from the inverter and the hot water service from the inverter to offset that energy. I mean, why wouldn't? That's a great idea. You don't need to use gas if you've got full batteries and, you know, 1200 odd watts of solar. Force or dump that energy into something that's, you know, sitting there. Like, why not? You may as well use it. So I'll take you inside and show you that now. This is typical test day. I'm on the roof real quickly, And I'm like, right, let's go look at the screen inside to see the solar yield, and bang, big cloud. Yep, it's going to be like this for a bit. Okay, so this is the touch interface now. I'm going to just do this real quick because it's a very overcast day. So we got 669 on the roof array, so the solar rear, that was the best it did today. And then on the front array, hopefully you guys can see this, 467. So that's really good. So that's only a 450 watt array, and that's what we got before. Now we had, this number was consistent. No, it wasn't a spike where it just spiked up and then, you know, it disappeared. It actually held that for a very long time. Hopefully we can get a little bit of sun because it's like overcast right now. So the sun's about there, so it's just popped above this tree here, but it's behind a grey cloud. So give it a few moments and hopefully we can capture it. But in the meantime, I'll give you the rundown. All right, so the new format, if you guys are unaware of it, looks like this. So you've got data come from the alternator. Here's your solar controllers. We are free camping now, guys, so this is, we're off grid. So this here on the shore power on the left, so if you were to plug the mains power in, right, the grid, it's going to come up here and it'll show you what's going on. It'll show you where the energy is moving and the charge rates are shown here. So right now we are using 100 amps or 1300 odd watts, and that's the battery voltage. We're 98% state of charge. These guys, we've got the air conditioning running. Alright, so we've got the Webasto cranking on 16, that is cold as. Also got a brisket going. So we've got the slow cooker running, and we're also running old mate's 3-way fridge from the inverter. So this will pull about 300 watts. If I were to turn that off, so I'll take note, I'll go shut it down. So we've got 1200, 1300 watts, 1280. If I turn this off, so we'll put this to gas. Right, so that's on gas. This will drop off a few hundred watts. And there we go. So that the reason these guys have opted for that is they've got control over it, of course. But you know, I do say to people it should be used as a backup only, but these guys have got so much energy, they're able to run their 3-way fridge, if they wish, from the inverter. I've also got the Truma hot water service, so in the center here, they're able to run their hot water service from the inverter as well, should they wish. And it's only a 14 litre boiler, so it doesn't take much to heat up. It's not like the Swift 28 litre job where it would take quite a substantial amount of time. The boiler, they're only, you know, they're only like 14 litres, so when the boiler, when this fills up, 14 litres isn't going to take much to heat up at all. Alright, so with the touchscreen, the controller's all done up here. So if you want to change your shore current limit, so if you're running a Honda 1, 3 amps, you're running a Honda 2, probably put it at 7 or 8, even 8 or 9, it'll probably be alright. Yamaha 2.4, you know, closer to 10, maybe 9 would be good. And obviously when you're on caravan park, leave it on 16. If you go to a station stay and you run your little amphibian, drop it down to 10 and then just click set. So because we're here at a caravan park, you know, we're just going to leave it on 16. Now obviously that's not valid right now because we're an inverter only, you see. We are plugged in, but I've ignored the shore, and you can see that on the screen because we're inverter only. If I were to click charger only, it will instantly flick over to the shore power and you'll see the system start to charge from the shore. But you know, we're testing this now, so we're running off grid, and these guys are going to run today off batteries just to see what they can and can't do, and they're going to manage their power as they see fit. So alternator here, so 50 amps from the engine will come in, whatever solar will come in. Obviously you're not going to have your shore power plugged in while you're driving, so while these guys are driving, they're able to have alternator charging and solar. So can you imagine 50 amps coming in here plus 70 odd amps coming from the solar all into the battery. Now if they're running their inverter because they're running their air conditioner while they're driving, they can do that. They can run their 3-way fridge from mains power while they're driving. So none of this 12-volt circuit on the fridge. We all know how the 12-volt circuit is on any 3-way fridge. It's a very low wattage element, and in the case of the Thetford, it's a 200 watt element. So at 12 volt, this fridge will pull 200 watts. At mains power, it'll pull 300 watts. So that's why, you know, when you hear about people talk about the 12-volt circuit on any Thetford three-way fridge, or any three-way fridge for that fact, the 12-volt is only a maintenance thing. It'll only keep your fridge cold at whatever temperature you got it at. Well, at best effort, in my opinion. It never really does a good job. And I know you guys will be nodding your head right now. It's true. 12-volt in any three-way fridge is pretty horrible, especially the hotter it gets. All right, it's all based on ambient temperature. So in my eyes, if you can run this on mains power, and it's great, like this is a motorhome, why not? They're able to do that. How good is that? So they'll have all of this alternator energy going in, they'll have all the solar coming in, and their load essentially while they're driving will be their three-way fridge, which is 300 watts. So in other words, they can charge their battery system and have a three-way fridge going from mains power while they're driving. And the good news is, when they stop, they don't have to flick over to gas if they don't want to. They can choose. You know, if they're down on energy, or if it's overcast day and they want to conserve energy, well then put it over to gas. They've got the option to do that. The solar's not picking up too much at the moment. Hopefully we get that sun to poke out. But either way, if it doesn't do it, if you want any information on any of the products, all you got to do is click it and it dives in. So solar yield, solar front, solar rear, and you've got all of your information at your fingertips. So this is current, this is on the fly, and what's happening right now. Go into history. So max power out of that 450 watt array was well over spec, so happy days there. Obviously we go back again into the rear. Now this is different. So this is a classic example of what happens when you've got flat mounted panels approaching, you know, your winter months. So the best I've got out of my flat array was only 670 in full sun, and obviously that's because they're flat, you know, and they're flat mounted. The sun's not perpendicular to the panels, and that's natural with any sort of flat mounted solar. You'll always see less yield, especially as you approach, you know, the winter months. With any solar panel, if you think of it like a Venetian blind, and as the sun starts to fall in the sky, so at a you know, dropping angle, it can only let a certain amount of light in. So the lower the sun gets, the less light gets into the cell, the less energy it's going to produce. So any flat mounted solar panel on the roof, you know, its peaks are obviously going to be when the sun is perpendicular straight above. So when you've got panels that are angled, and if the sun comes in on this angle, it's only going to show you, you know, your peaks, and it's going to be higher. And the same bears true for any sort of solar panel. It doesn't matter what you've got. That's just generally how they work. So, you know, the sun was shining this morning and it was punching through the trees, and we were getting like 50 or 60 watts. But as that sun came up, obviously there's all shade, it's disappeared again. Even though the sun's quite low in the sky, because that front array is angled towards the sun, that's why we saw the 467 watts from that angled array. But yet the flat mounted array, the best we got out of it was 670 odd watts. If this was summer and that sun was higher in the sky, I can guarantee you that larger array would have been a much higher number. And that front array, you know, probably be slightly less. So that's just generally how, you know, any solar panel works. We're still not getting, well, we're getting brighter. It's getting there. We want that. See? So the sun right now is just past this tree. So we're still on an angle, but this solar should increase if we can get that blue sky to open up. Super dry in Adelaide too. We've had like, it's a drought. It should be declared. We've had no rain. We need rain badly. So, you know, same story. 2-3 days of full sun. I go to do my test and rundown and we get overcast. Maybe it's an omen. Maybe the rain is coming. Hopefully. I'll touch base on this Webasto now. And we've had this running for a bit, on and off this morning. It's not an inverter style AC, so it doesn't kind of ramp up and down slowly and hover at a low idle like you see the FreshJet 7s do. But what it does do is draw bugger all power. Now I'm pulling 970 watts at the moment. I've got the slow cooker on. Right, I think the fridge is still on gas. Yes, the fridge is on gas. The only devices running from the inverter at the moment are a slow cooker and this aircon on flat out 16. And it's only pulling 960 watts. Now, I think the that slow cooker would be about 200 watts. So this is like 650 to 700 watts, guys. In other words, if you've got that amount of solar or more on your roof, essentially you're able to run on par with this air conditioner. So, you know, I haven't done many vans with a Webasto, so it's just good to see what different air conditioners draw. And this one is bloody low, and that is really cold. Like this isn't a small motorhome, guys. This is an Esperance. Like these are decent size. And these guys said it does a great job of cooling this fan down. So I know their efficiencies are going to be amazing, especially if they manage their energy properly. They'll be able to put this on, you know, 9 o'clock in the morning on a really hot day, keep everything nice and cold in here. And because they've got so much solar, at a certain point of the morning, their solar intake is going to pass what this is drawing. So in other words, they'll be charging at a certain point in the morning. Cool. Actually, I forgot that they're running this Engel as a freezer. So this is on mains power. Yeah. So this Engel is also running not on 12 volt, guys. So this is actually running from the inverter. So they're actually running 3 devices. So that one is running, the slow cooker's going with the brisket, beautiful, and we've got the aircon pumping. So the fridge is still on gas. Yep. And that's all we're using at the moment. Still got no solar coming in, but yeah. So yeah, this aircon is actually very efficient. I'm really stoked with this. Definitely going to look into these a bit more. If you guys, you know, have these and are running these off grid, you know, give me some comments. Let me know what you think. I know they're a bit clunky and they're a bit loud, but you know, you're cooling a van down. This is, you know, if you can keep your van nice and cold, you know, as long as you're not running it all night, you can manage it. Then yeah, turn it on and off. So I'll put this over to the. I won't put it on auto. We'll leave it on manual. And there we go. So 3-way fridge now, and that'll jump up another 200 odd watts. Almost 300. So 3-way fridge, air conditioning, and slow cooker brisket. This is free camping and how it's done. Right, cheeky extra on for you. So this van came with these 2 lithiums, and old mate had problems from the get-go, not charging properly. We'll get in that in a minute. But upon disconnecting these, I wanted to fire up the 3-way fridge. So what we do is we'll take the battery over to the back of the 3-way fridge and just quickly hook it up to keep the the circuits going. Now I want you to watch one of these batteries. All right, so this is just connected to this back battery here. Hopefully you can see it. If not, I'll hold it up. But when I connected one of the batteries, I took one around from here and put it in the back of the fridge wouldn't turn on. I'm like, battery must be flat. And when I first connected it, it was showing 0 volts, like nothing. So I knew the battery had shut down, but my mind instantly went to like, well, hang on, they had a 12 volt system running, even when they were off grid. So one of the batteries must have been fine, or they drained the battery. But check this out. Hopefully you can see that. Now I'm going to put a load, all right? And it's just this is a brushless fan with a 0.1 amp load. Watch that multimeter. You ready? Gone. Now all I'm doing is attaching, hopefully you can see, I'll bring it down a bit better, is attaching this fan straight to it. So in other words, I'm getting a BMS shutdown. So in other words, this is a flat battery. Now, you're probably thinking just wake it up, you know, you jump start it like you do any lithium battery. Well, you would be wrong. I'll tell you why. So these batteries were interconnected in parallel. So either they both shit the bed or something's wrong. So check this out. So this fan won't even run from this back battery, all right? I'll bring it back down. I'll put the multimeter on this battery. I'm going to get my 13 point something volts. See? Okay, 13.3. So in other words, this battery is charged. There is charge in this battery, but there's nothing in this. Now, if they're interconnected in parallel, you would think this would have woken up by now. Now, they were interconnected in parallel for like weeks, months, a long time, and being charged and not charged. So in other words, this battery is either faulty, or something's going on with it, and whatever's caused it is, I'm not sure yet. But either way, this fan, this little fan here, which I'll bring it down again, will run perfectly from the other battery, obviously. There you go. Fan spinning. Now it's only a 0.1 amp, 1.8, so that's millivolts. That's bugger all. Yeah, it's enough to make this shut down, but there's no energy in this. This fan will not even run. This will not run from the back battery. So, faulty battery, or yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. It's not right. Something's going on with the BMS. Even though it's showing voltage, surface voltage at 12.5, which for you guys that are in the lithium world would know that that's dead flat. But yet the other one is, you know, there you go. So faulty battery in my world, and I can't even wake it up. Doesn't matter what I do. But that's not the best of it. Check this out. So on the roof, I'm going to try and focus this for you guys. So that's the Sikaflex. So on the roof of this van, these guys opted for an extra solar panel to be fitted. So what they've done is the factory 170 watt panel, which is at the rear, that's obviously been removed. This is the panel that they fitted. It is a 180 watt Voltec, and the fitting of this is in such a way that I can only describe as, I don't know, not good. Hard to see. Put it on my foot in some shadow. So you can see the soldering done. Bring you around. So see this? So they had put heat shrink over it. Now they soldered it right next to it. It's on twin core 6mm. So these were basically touching each other. And if I were to bust this open, I'd see the same thing. This had all corroded out. All corroded out completely. And the other end of it is here. Hard to see, but hopefully you can see. It's all corroded out. In other words, water ingress. Water's gotten into this because it's a soldered exposed joint. Water's gotten into it, corroded it out, lost contact. Because when we took this off the roof, that just fell straight out. And even more so at the end of that cable. So that's the end of the cable. So it followed like that. And then to tap in the panel, they have literally just cut open. This was not under the panel, guys. This was in exposure to the sun, because you can see the Sikaflex. So that was just sitting down the roof. They've tapped straight in to the existing solar lines, and that, look, it's not even making contact. This is loose as a goose. I can slip that in and out. Can you see that? The solder hasn't even made penetration. Look. So in other words, whoever soldered this, it's just not joined. It's like, no wonder the solar panel wasn't working. Number one, that's, you know, lost contact, and number two, this wasn't even, you know, it's all corroded out. Look, so it lost the connection here. It lost the connection here. Whoever fitted this solar panel seriously needs to, you know, go back and just really think about how to make a connection. If you're going to do that, right, you don't do that on the roof. He would have been better drilling a hole, bringing it inside the van, and bringing it parallel. And, you know, we've got mismatch of panels. We've got a 170 watt PowerTech here with a 180 watt Voltec, completely different ratings. You know, I've got a VOC here of 25.9. 25.9? Yep. And the P max is at 21 volts. What's this one? This is 18 volts. I mean, come on. This is like, so the maximum power voltage, you know, so when you join panels in parallel, they've got to be of the same rating or very close to it. If they're out, you're not actually going to get the potential from the solar system. The MPPT system that, you know, Victron or whoever you use, you're going to give it misinformation, and you're not going to get the best out of the system at all. So basically these guys have asked for a lithium upgrade with extra solar that's not doing anything. We've got a battery that's shut down. I don't know what's caused that, but either way, I've seen some stuff in my time, but I'll tell you what, that's up there with some pretty average stuff. Anyway, it's much better now. I just quickly got some sun. Yep, I had to run to get it. 800. Awesome. 837.
Yeah, the cloud's completely...
Beautiful. So we got 950, 975, 980. Happy with that. That's a good test there. Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly right.